Well, it looks like I'm going to have a chance to record just a little bit before I go. It's the end of the last day of our trip here to Hawaii. And originally, I hadn't planned on really doing any recording. I was just going to kind of skip a day. But I've got a couple of hours in the middle of the day. Our flight isn't until, I think, 11 tonight. So even taking into account dropping off our car and doing all of the bureaucratic rigmarole that involves getting on a plane, I still have some time, and we left the Airbnb this morning. I'm at my parents' rental place right now. We're just hanging out. I just went in the pool. It was lovely. It's been alternately bright and cloudy, and we spent the morning. See, here's the brightness. You can see the horrible sun. I will say this. I like the sun, but the deep Canadian part of me is missing the clouds and the rain. So it'll be nice to get home. Wait for this car to. So yeah, I've had a really nice time, but I'm a little bit tired of just like being constantly kind of damp. So it'll be nice to go home, even for just a day. I'm already starting to think about how I'm going to be home so briefly before flying out to St. Louis for this roleplay show, and how I still have some prep I have to do, and I'm trying really hard not to do that thing where it's the Sunday killer, right? It's like it's the weekend, you're on vacation or whatever, you have some time off, and you get to the middle point and you immediately start worrying about what you have to do when you get back, and I'm trying really hard to avoid doing that. It's something that I'm really bad about. So yeah, today though, we went this morning to one more historical site / national park. This one has a name in Hawaiian which I can neither remember or pronounce, but I'll put in the description down below so you can check it out. But it's translated as place of refuge, and basically its purpose in original ancient Hawaiian culture was to give people who had violated the cultural taboos a place where if you broke the law, you could flee to this refuge place. The priests would absolve you of your crimes, and then after a couple of days, you could be returned to your home village or whatever, and reintegrate into society. It's a really interesting set of punitive structures, right? So they have this stuff. The elite, the like noble class, sets up a list of kapu, which are like taboos, right? So they say, here are all the things you can't do. Most of them involve like dietary stuff, like you can't eat certain fruits out of season, you can't fish for certain fish out of season. A lot of gender role stuff, like men and women can't eat together was one of them. Your shadow can't fall on the footsteps or the personage of a noble, and the punishment for literally everything. They had a gang of marshals, basically guys with these sawtooth clubs, who if you broke the kapu, they would just like come after you and murder you. Though I guess it's not murder if you're doing it because they violated holy law. Anyway, if you could avoid those guys, if you could get away from the elite's goons and flee to these priests in the place of refuge, they would absolve you of your sins. They would send out runners into the island and say, this person, they've been absolved of the crime of eating the mahi-mahi at the wrong time of year. Reintroduce them into your society. Accept them once again. And it's just fascinating to me how unlike Western, and by Western I mean mostly like Christian like culture, they have this odd sanctity of life kind of thing where murder is among the worst sins you can commit, whereas with a lot of ancient cultures, people would get killed for pretty much no reason. Even ancient Rome, like if you pissed somebody off, they would just get their guys to go and murder you. But I really thought it was interesting that the power source is the same, right? The nobles and the priest class, they get their power from the same source, from the gods, right? So the gods hand their power down. The nobles make the law and enforce the law, and it is a divine law because they themselves are divine entities. But then the priest caste their job, among other things like officiating festivals and marriage and birth and death rites, that kind of stuff. But initially to that relates to justice. Their job was just to absolve people of their crimes, was to perform the sort of washing rituals, which I think is really cool, and how totally different it is from the God gives the law to the church empowers the religion to the rulers, the rulers have the police, and the police make sure you follow the rules. It's an interesting split of those things, and it got me thinking about this thing that I say a lot about being a game master, but particularly being any kind of creative individual. The more you know about the real world, the more you go out and experience real world culture and art and what have you, the better your brain is at coming up with your own variations of that stuff. You know, there are very few ideas that are purely of the human mind, right? Purely of our invention, without drawing on history or culture or religion or art that already exists, right? That's a given. We've been saying that for thousands of years. And it's really cool getting exposed to a new idea, to me, a new idea, that I hadn't thought about before. And so visiting this place and speaking with a person who does like indigenous craft work and speaking to the park rangers and like kind of learning this stuff was really fascinating. It was cool in a way that is much more anthropological than any of the other sort of sites we've seen here. So for that reason, it might be my favorite. We were listening to the ranger talk about the history of the place and the history of the islands and where people came from when they arrived in Hawaii. And it's interesting to me that the first people that settled in Hawaii came here from other islands around 900, right? Around 900 CE, which is exactly the same time that the Icelanders were first arriving from, Denmark and what have you, from Scandinavia in Iceland. So there's this kind of parallel movement going on, and it kind of got me thinking about like what kinds of things impel people to leave their home and to find a new one, right? What caused the Icelanders to become Icelanders? What caused the Hawaiians to become Hawaiians? I think that stuff is really cool. There's this common thread, I think, in all human culture about exodus, right? From whence we came. And so I think that when I'm doing things like building the world of Far Verona or the world of Court of Swords, it makes me think about like what are the stories of those people, right? Those people are fictional, the cultures are fictional, but obviously, especially with Court of Swords, I'm drawing on inspiration from places like Vietnam, Cambodia, Thailand, China, Turkey, etc., right? And I've been thinking a lot about, in that setting, the Court of Cups, which is our kind of tropical to Arctic, like island archipelago that we've really never seen in the campaign. But it's definitely inspiring, and it kind of makes me think like the more books we read, the more movies we watch, the more TV shows and culture we absorb, the more places we can go, the better we become as creative individuals. And so for no other reason than that, right, above and beyond lying on the beach reading or eating food I haven't had before, delicious papayas, drinking coffee and relaxing, above and beyond all that stuff, I feel like it's nice to be able to visit places like the Volcano National Park or like the place of refuge where I can enrich my creative brain. So it's a real nice way to end the trip. And I know I'm going to be thinking about that and about the kinds of things that drive a culture. I think it's important to go to museums and to absorb art. And if you don't have that opportunity in your life, you can very easily get turned inward and not really be able to create new things. Kind of fascinating, and it's got me feeling all philosophical. So I thought I would sit down and talk a little bit about it before the end of the day. I have a few more little errands that I need to run, a few more things, pack my bags the rest of the way, finish this vlog, and then that's it. And then the vacation's over, and I'm back home. There should be a vlog every day, continuing on through, assuming I can get access to the internet, and so you can look forward to St. Louis and to Roleplay Live, which I hope you'll join us for. That's on Saturday. I think we're starting at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, for a big full episode of Court of Swords. So I'm gonna be thinking about that all the way home on the plane when I'm not desperately trying to sleep through the red eye, knowing I have a 3-hour drive ahead of me when I get back. But as it stands, I am both hungry and thirsty, and so I'm going to listen to my body, and I'm going to go and feed and water myself. But I'm really glad we got a chance to record just a little bit, even though it's not you know, the usual fancy Hawaiian stuff, it's nice to get that day in and continue the momentum for Vlogmas. So we'll see you tomorrow for more. Thank you, as always, for tuning in and for your comments. Oh, I wanted to say thank you to everybody who recommended me a book to read or something to check out as regards the spread of religion, especially in a colonial sense. I've got a list of very intriguing-looking books, and it's all thanks to you, which is really nice. So thank you for that. That's it for me for today. We'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.